great day in real estate. Well, at least it's a great day in real estate to us because we get to hang out and talk about how we're swaying through today's real estate market. Anita Clinton and I have invited, look, we've known Cecilia, what, well over a decade now, Cecilia?
Well over. I was thinking about that and your vision board party that we had at your house when you were at KW.
Get out of here. Was that the one in the basement?
I feel like I'm trying to remember if it was in the basement or your living room. I
I
can't
think it was in the living
remember. I
room.
feel like
It
it
was
was
the
the
living
living
room.
room.
So that was the
Mhm.
second one because I had one the year before that when we lived in a condo and we had it in the basement. And then the next year I did one and we did it in the living room. And recently, me and Nicole Wheatley were talking about doing another one because we used to rent out the movie theater at 87th Street and watch the movie The Secret
Love
together.
it.
But guess what? And I still love The Secret and reading the book The Magic now, but we need to have a solid business plan in order to navigate today's real estate market. And we invited you over here to tell us the good news on how we going to put buyers in homes today and make real estate do what it does.
I love that. And thank you for having me. I'm always excited to be in the presence of greatness. So
What?
thank you. Thank you both for having me today. Yeah, I'm excited about 2023. And, I've been watching, what you've been doing this week specifically as it relates to planning. And we all know that either you fail to plan or you plan to fail. Right? And if you don't have a plan, then you are automatically behind the power curve. And so mortgages plays a big role in the real estate economy and how we actually do get buyers into homes. I often tell my buyers today that, I know that rates are a little bit higher than what you're historically or what you think they were a couple years ago, but really we're at an average. As you said, we've been in the business for a very long time. And so I think when Anita and I were back doing mortgages, an adjustable rate was probably 10, 13%. So
Yep.
6%, we can figure it out.
Yeah, they were a little bit higher, weren't they?
Yes. Yes.
And even then, we were thinking about business planning, especially long term strategic business planning, which is why we all have the opportunity to sit still, be able to still sit here today and still all play a role in the world of real estate. But AC, I know you've been reading the housing market, and I want to know, what is the housing market saying today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we've been talking about throughout the week, Realtor.com put together a 2023 forecast, right? So they're predicting what's going to happen in real estate in 2023. And, it does seem a little doom and gloom. However, the ultimate goal here is to make you aware of what these predictions are so that you can plan accordingly for whatever happens, right? Nobody knows what's really going to happen, but you can absolutely have a plan in place where you can shift or sway, as Marky's been saying, to make sure that your real estate business still does well in 2023. And so we've talked about housing prices, what they're going to look like. We talked about supply, what that's going to kind of look like in 2023, or at least what Realtor.com is predicting that's going to look like. And so today we're going to talk about affordability, which is going to also bleed into mortgage rates. And so, according to the Realtor.com, their forecast, they say that income, mortgage rates, and home prices are the major components that determine whether a house is affordable. And so, when we're thinking about working with home buyers for 2023, they believe that affordability is going to outweigh any other search criteria, right? People want to get into a house that they can afford, within their range, they're within their income, and then it's at the right price, right? And mortgage rates factor into that. And so that's why we have the beautiful Cecilia Marlowe with us today, the mortgage mom. And so super excited to just talk about what does mortgage or what are mortgage rates options? What is all of that where mortgages are concerned? What it's going to look like in 2023 or what it could possibly look like? Because once again, nobody knows.
Agreed.
So, Cecilia, what are
Agreed.
your thoughts?
Again, I'm excited, right? Because now is really a great time to educate and to share, the tools and the resources that are out there. And when we're looking at home affordability, of course, income is going to play a part, but of course, the rates and we can't control what the rates do. What we can do is talk about strategy, right? So just like you, Marky, are helping the real estate world to business plan. One of the biggest things that I do on a day to day is help them to plan out what their mortgage looks like, and in being able to do so, you got to kind of know what the products are. So the first thing I like to look at when I'm looking at someone who's looking at the application process is I like to look at what resources are available to them, right? So we generally are going to look at three things: credit, income, assets. Okay. Credit, I think we kind of got a handle on credit for the most part. Income, your income is going to be what it is. But those assets now lead us to a conversation about down payment assistance, down payment resources that might be available to buyers. So I work with for guaranteed rate. We lend in all states, and there are down payment assistance programs in all states, right? I actually just looked on our resource center today and it popped up that Alaska has a new program coming available. So I'm excited that there are resources out there and that these types of things are being taken into consideration inside of the buyer's interest in making the housing more affordable. One of the national programs that you can use in any state is Chinoa. Right. A lot of people don't know that you can have as little as a 600 credit score and be able to get a down payment assistance program in any state, right? Using that particular fund. Each
How do you
state is
spell
going
that?
Chenoa. That's a national product, right? So no matter where you are in the landscape of real estate, that product can be available given the correct criteria in terms of income, in terms of credit score, to make home ownership possible. And they generally are going to offer anywhere between 3.5 to 5% of the down payment. And of course, as we know, we have been dispelling that myth on down payment for a very long time. No, you do not need 20% to close on your home, right? 3% as little as on conventional, up to 5%, 3.5%, 5% on FHA. Veterans, no money down, right? So we need to be able to be well versed in terms of what products are available. Down payment is usually one of the first conversations that I have with the client as it relates to what type of assistance is out there. And so for the real estate community, I'd like for you to jot down payment resource.com, because you can give that website to your buyer. They can put their parameters in and it's going to populate a list of down payment programs that are available, right? There are also tools and services for lenders and for real estate professionals as well, right on that website. So it's a great, great, great help when we're looking at, just where the assets are coming from, which is where I find a lot of people are having maybe just a little bit of a challenge, even though we're seeing that shift as well now because we're seeing more seller credits on the table again.
So when we start thinking about all of these different programs, how do we leverage these funds in order to reduce the interest, in order to reduce the payment?
Absolutely. So, two things that I generally would consider. Number one, is going to be buying down the interest rate. So here's another quick snippet. If you want to know what today's rates are, go to mortgagenewsdaily.com. It's a free website. It will tell you what the 30-year, the 15-year, FHA, VA, 5/1 arm is going to give you, what those daily rates are on a day-to-day basis, right? Based off of what the market is trading at. So that's another kind of little snippet. But we can also, leverage the programs to be able to buy down our interest rates. Buy downs are becoming more common in the marketplace, right? And what that essentially means is that we are allowing folks to either ease into their payment with a temporary buy down. We can do a 3-2-1, a 2-1, or we can do a permanent buy down of the interest rate, right? So when we're looking at it, I actually priced out a loan today using a 3-1 buy down. The purchase price was $219. The monthly payment was $13.95. The interest rate, the starting rate was at 6.75. We buy that rate down 3 points to start them at a 3.75. Each year it increases by 1 point. So year two, 4.75, year three, 5.75, and then 4 through 30. Now we're at that permanent rate. The cost for that, and let's just assume that we're using FHA financing. The cost for that on a $219,000 loan was about $9,500. Well, of course, we know with FHA we can use seller credits, right? So we can use
Mhm.
up to 6%. So on 200,000 roughly, we got $12,000. You still got a little money left over, right? But then we also use the down payment assistance to ensure that that buyer is coming to the closing with as little money as possible.
Hmm.
That's awesome.
So here's the joy, right? That a person can still that's an excellent interest rate on a 3-2-1 buy down, especially if we were talking about that first time home buyer who likely is going to have an increase in income, right?
Correct.
The next thing is that there isn't as much competition in the real estate world today, which means then overbidding by potentially, 10, 15, $20,000 is not the likelihood in most markets. And sellers are willing to entertain giving a closing cost credit, which essentially had been off the table for about 18 to 24 months.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So when you begin to combine these things and put together your mortgage plan, right, as a buyer, but the real estate professional being armed with the information to then share with them those professionals that really will help them to do that, that becomes a very huge part of your business plan, right? Who's on your team, I'm sure is something that you are going to talk about at some point. And so just making sure that you have those tools in place. The other thing is that a lot of people are also entertaining adjustable rate mortgages, right? So a 5-1 arm. So today I believe the 5-1 arm was trading at about 5 point, I'll tell you in 2.2 seconds. Mortgage News Daily. The 5-1 arm allows me to have a fixed payment for the first 5 years, and then based off of what the market is doing every year after that, it has the potential to adjust up or down. Again, based off of what the market was doing. So, for someone who knows that they're going to be in their home for 3 to 5 years, the adjustable rate mortgage could make sense. I think the big piece with that is just making sure that folks understand how that works when it comes into play of the actual adjustments. And the 5-1 arm today was trading at like 5.82%, right?
And you
So
would be able to, the
if I
buyer could buy
wanted to,
that down too, right?
correct, correct.
And I've
So,
as I've been explaining to people, two things that stood out, right? When I purchased my first property at the tender age of 24, it was with an IDA program at 8.375. I was so frantic, it was unreal because I was a 24-year-old who owned an investment property. That would be first and foremost. But what AC and I noticed when we were reading the descriptions on the program, a lot of the different grant programs initially used to be for first time home buyers. Keeping in mind that a first time home buyer doesn't mean that a person hasn't previously owned a property. Most consider it a person who hasn't owned a property as their principal residence in the past 3 years. But there's additional language now. And I'm like, when did they totally change the language from it did not have to be a first time home buyer? Is that something new? Because I don't remember that in the past.
in the last few years, specifically your state program, so IDA, right?
Okay.
They have allowed you to be a first time home buyer or a non first time home buyer. Generally, the caveat is going to be that you can't own any other real estate. Right.
Mm.
So you can't have any other properties in your name and then go and get some assistance for that. So I have actually had people that have had properties that they even inherited. And now they're actually buying their first home, but we got to get that property out their name. They got to, gift it to someone else maybe because they can't own the property. But I love what you just said. And I am seeing a lot of millennials today who are house hacking using multi units to get into the market because you can also use that additional rental as income for qualifying. So when we're talking about affordability, specifically within the buying and purchasing power, if I have my current W-2 wages, but then I also know that this particular property is going to have rental income of, I mean, as you said the other day, just like mortgages are going up, so is rent, right? So if I got another $2,000 and we're going to use 75% of that to add to my income, I actually am increasing my purchasing power that way. And so most of your programs are going to allow for up to 2 units when we're talking about down payment assistance. So again, just a great way to begin to build that multi-generational wealth.
What's the difference between being an investor and house hacking? Because I'm a little confused, right? See, let me tell you one thing that it wears me out,
Uh-huh.
right? New terminology for things that have already existed, right? So like house hacking is the new term, and I'm like,
Same.
yeah, it's an investor, a real estate. We're gonna go house hack. No, that's real estate investing. And because I
Absolutely.
have a 26-year-old, right? He always flipping a new term on me. Baby, we been doing that. That's what we used to call so and so. So I just
Yes.
okay, thank
No,
you.
no, no. Same. We're just adjusting our vocabulary for the different audiences that exist. That's all. But yes, they become investors.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
I love it. Can we talk a little bit about the kind of the pros and cons of arms?
Yes. The pros of an arm would be that yes, I get into the market at a cheaper price point initially, right? In terms of what my monthly payment is going to be. One of the things that I used to not like about arms when we did them a lot more often back in the day was that we don't know what the market is going to do in 5 years. Right. So we don't. So, I mean, although there are caps in place, right. And a cap is basically just saying that, yes, after 5 years, your interest rate is going to adjust, annually, but it can't adjust more than 75 basis points, for example. Right. The reality is that we still don't know how often and what the market is going to do. What we can do is prepare for the cap, right? So if I know that the max that my adjustable rate mortgage will cap at would be 75 basis points and I started at 5.875, then I can kind of look at my payment and say, okay, in 5 years, at worst, my payment is going to be X, right? So I think that the biggest con is that we just don't know what the market's going to do. But another pro is that I can always refinance out into a fixed rate if the interest rates are lower at that time and it makes sense for me to do so. Um, Con, if I get into an adjustable rate mortgage because I'm anticipating that I will only have this property 3, 5, 7 years and I'm going to go move into another state, potentially, maybe. I don't know. That might be a reason why someone would get an arm. And then I decide in 5 years, nope, I'm not. Right. So, I mean, I think that there are definitely some things to consider, but I believe that those are also things that you would consider even with traditional financing. If I was doing a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, right? Outside of the adjustments in the interest rate. But that again, speaks to what Marky is talking about, which is planning. We got to have a plan. Right. So I always, as I'm talking to even little Omari, you are the CEO of your life, right? So you are the CEO of your household. Make sure that you have a solid plan in place. And can we always, adjust or project what's going to happen? No, but I could probably put some parameters and put some things in place to safeguard myself.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Most
Absolutely.
definitely. So, in consulting and working with realtors and understanding the obstacles and the hurdles that they're looking at, what is a piece of advice you could give to them today for staying in the business, being able to sway and hold on?
I think mindset is everything. Who you're around, the conversations that you're in on a consistent day-to-day basis. I am a big believer in having an accountability buddy. Because the days that I might not feel like doing the stuff that I need to do, my accountability partner is gonna keep me in check and is gonna pull me out of whatever mindset that I might have divulged into. So I'm really big on accountability, but I believe it all starts with, setting yourself up for success in terms of your mindset, right? Do you actually think you can make it in this market? I was actually talking to a young lady who is a real estate professional, and she was saying, I don't think that I'm going to stay. And I asked her, why not? We began to talk through some of the challenges. I said, well, you need to surround yourself and insulate yourself around different conversations, because if you stay in the same conversations, and everybody is, kind of a stick in the mud, as my grandmother used to say, then guess what? You're going to be a stick in the mud. You're going to be out of business. But one of the things I love even about our team at Guaranteed Rate, the Singleton team, we have a group thread. So we're constantly in communication about, market changes, things that are happening in the industry, how we can assist one another, maybe even brainstorming about different ideas, or have you seen this come up? How are you navigating that? Being an entrepreneur in itself, takes a lot of courage. And so you definitely, I think who you are around, show me your five closest friends, and I can show you who you are.
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? So you think about, like Henry Ford said, he who thinks he can and he who thinks he can't are both right, right? And the
Absolutely.
Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he. There's a whole
Absolutely.
bunch of those. And sometimes we overlook the power of what's going in and out of our ear gates and our eye gates, right? What are you listening to? Who are you listening to? What are you watching? What are you telling yourself every morning when you wake up to start your business?
Yes.
All of that stuff matters. It all matters and it all plays a role. Marky was doing her Canva course on Tuesday. And at the end of the course, this conversation on mindset came up. And in her group, I had posted this video from Tony Robbins. And in the video, he talks about how every morning he gets into cold water. He
Mm.
doesn't like it, but he said it is his way of training his mind to do what he wants it to do, not what it wants to do. So when those
Mm.
opportunities come up for him to do something that he really don't want to do, he's already trained his mind, independent of how I feel about this. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Period.
That's it. That's it. I love that. I heard something the other day. I was listening to a podcast, and the young lady said that there is a mantra in Weight Watchers that says, if you wouldn't say it to someone else, why are you saying it to yourself?
Ooh,
And I was like, that's good, right?
yeah.
Because we're definitely more conscious about, we're very conscious about how we communicate with others. But are we just that intentional with the way that we, communicate with ourselves and what our own self talk is? So I thought that was brilliant. I was like, oh, I got to write that down.
Well, one
Yeah.
thing I'm doing now, because I watched the movie The Secret annually, is I'm reading the book The Magic, and
Mm,
it's a 28-day process in the magic, and it's about gratitude and what you attract back to you as a result of gratitude. So I know tomorrow, because I've already looked at it, is going to be about the magic check. So right here in my office, there are three different things on my computer screen. One, I have a $4 million check because I'm going to make 4 millionaires, me, my husband, and my two sons. Someone made me mad last year and they gave me $50 that I refused to spend. So that's a $5 million bill. And I figured that I would manifest the 5 million easier with a $50 bill than I would $1 million with a $1 bill. And then on the $2 bill, it's about me consistently giving thanks for every dollar that has been given to me in my life, going back to birth, all the money that our parents spent on us, our grandparents, your Christmas presents from your aunts and your uncles. And you start thinking about everything that was given to you without you ever working, right? To
mm,
give it gratitude. And so I believe in giving thanks. I believe in gratitude. We did in a leadership training, it was about your personality style. And I realized in this training that my personality style is I do not mess with people who are not grateful.
mm,
People who are not, they just ugh my nerves. People who have an anticipation that people are supposed to do for them, it just baffles me, right? So I tend to not surround myself with ungrateful people because I believe in gratitude, right? There is a question, and it's in regards to IDA. For the IDA repayable program, does the monthly payment get counted against you or decrease the amount of the loan? as far as it another credit item that needs to be considered as an expense. Hope this makes sense. I
Great
don't know. Did
question.
it make sense?
Yes, I totally got it. Thank you for the question. So the IDA repayable is one of the programs. So most of the IDA programs don't have a payment portion included in them. As a matter of fact, I just closed two IDA deals today, and both of those clients did not have a payment associated with them, um, and they're fully forgiven. So one of the realtors called before I made it there and said, "Hey, I thought this was a grant, but it looks like a loan." I said, "Well, the way in which they place it on title, it is a silent second. But there's no payment. And as long as we stay in the property for 5 years or don't refinance, then it's fully forgiven." The repayable program actually does have a payment to it. I want to say it's $81 or $83 per month. That absolutely does count towards your debt to income ratio. It also can, depending on what that debt to income ratio is, it can have the ability to decrease the qualifying loan amount. So, yes, the question totally made sense. And your lender should be able to help you to make sure that those numbers make sense if that's the program that you're going with. But yes, it counts towards your debt to income ratio, 45% cap, not 45.01. So 45% is where you're capped at. And yes, it could have the potential. If you're going over that 45, we have to lower the amount.
So what's the benefit of I guess the repayable, you get more money
You
than
do.
on the forgivable ones?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So opening doors is a $6,000 grant, and that one is a forgivable one. The repayable one, I believe, is $10,000. So that one does come with a payment over the term of the loan.
Awesome.
And then what are the new FHA loan limits? Because I've been hearing a lot of talk about the FHA loan limits. Did they increase or decrease?
They have definitely increased, and you're gonna make me Google it because I don't have it downloaded in my head just yet, and I feel bad as a lender, but I'm gonna just be transparent about it because
It's okay. They just look. They brand spanking new
they
on
are
the streets
brand
this week.
spanking
So yeah,
new.
I'm sorry for throwing out the trick question, but
No,
you just said that it
they've
increased.
increased.
Yeah, so
Yes.
that's
So we have
excellent.
more purchasing power. I mean, that's the beauty of it, right? Just as home prices are increasing, we're actually allowing for higher loan limits across the country. So it's amazing. As a matter of fact, FHA and conventional have increased their loan limits. I assume that VA will do the same. We just haven't heard as of yet. But I'm assuming they generally follow suit. So yes, they all have increased. And don't forget about the 203K. I always tell people, listen, your first home ain't supposed to be your dream home. It doesn't have to be. Now, I don't know. Maybe you got it like that, and maybe it can be. For me, my first home wasn't a dream home. So, when we're looking at affordability, some of the ways in which to keep that home affordable is to look for the worst house on the best block. Use that 203K loan to increase the value and walk into the property with equity and make it your own. So don't sleep on that either. And if you're not
Yeah.
using 203K, you need to call me because it's a great tool. And we
So
have that product for conventional FHA and VA. So veterans can use that program as well.
Yeah,
the
so
house.
really quick, hold on, hold on. So,
Mhm.
so, so you remember when we used to talk about investment strategies, and one of the strategies was if you bought a property that needed some rehab on it, you live in that property for 2 years, you could turn around, providing property values have gone up because you got built-in equity. Sell that property. There's no capital gains tax over was it 250 for
Correct.
single family, and is it 500 for married couples?
Yep.
So now you've just built wealth. You can upgrade to that next house that you're looking for after that 2 year period. Like that's a strategy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The house that I still live in, because I don't foresee us ever selling this house. We did a 203K loan. Um, in 12 months, we came back. We did a rate and term refinance in order to eliminate the PMI on the loan. Let me see, MIP, the mortgage insurance protection on the loan. And we were at a 62% loan to value on our rate and term refinance. Our PITI, keep in mind, I live in Bronzeville. My house was built in 2007, is still under $2,000 per month.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
That's another
amazing.
strategy too.
Yeah.
Whole
With
nother
the val
strategy.
with about $400,000 in equity now. So and we were very strategic in using the 203K loan. And one thing that I would say, because I'm an advocate of living within your husband's means, because that's how my grandmothers did it, right? I live within my husband's means. Therefore, I don't really know what the mortgage is because I ain't never paid it, okay? Because it's within what my husband can afford to pay. And back in the day, grandma always saved the money for all the sweet extra stuff, and granddaddy was handling them bills. And somehow they managed to handle it no matter what those jobs were, and they weren't getting paid what we getting paid today.
I say it all the time. And I
Yes.
so look, I love that. That's an amazing story and testimony. Real estate is for leverage, y'all. Okay, we get attached to it, but really we're supposed to be using it as a leveraging tool to forward, what the real plan and the goal is. So I love that story about the 203K, and I try to encourage people to use it. You have to be prepared for it, but with the right professionals around you, it is a great tool to use.
Yeah, my next door neighbor, he did the same thing, but he took a two flat. So he actually created the most equity in the least amount of time because he took a two flat and converted it to a single family residence.
Ooh.
Hmm.
His equity look real good too.
He looked real good. And here's the joy, right? His in-laws moved in with him on the lower level. Him and his wife have three children. So I'm really proud that he was able to do that for his family.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That's
And that's what we
awesome.
all do it for. That's why we're in the business, right? Like we want to enhance our own quality of lives as well as those around us. And that's the joy and the beauty and the juice really in what we do. So I love that.
Ah, well, guys, if you aren't registered, we want you to register for Hit the Ground Running. It is a four evening series on business planning. We believe in business planning. That is why I would say to combined, we probably have close to 60 years. We know at least 50 years of real estate experience being entrepreneurs. I'm not going to say it's always been easy, but we're still standing here smiling and still doing the thing because we have been successfully planning for success now for almost 50 years. So if you haven't had the opportunity, please join us because we want you to stay in the business. Right now, African American home ownership is, they predict that it's going to decline, but it's 42%. And the wealth in this country is still in owning real estate. So make sure that you hit that button. I'm getting ready to head out and go to a company party. What's everybody else doing tonight?
You know, I'm off to basketball. My
I'm
second
going to bed.
life.
And AC says she going to
I'm
bed.
going to bed. I'm tired.
Okay. Well, everybody, make sure you have a great evening and join us for planning for your success because we plan to hit the ground running. See you
Love
Absolutely. So
guys.
that. Bye bye.
Bye bye.